you know, at one point Jeffrey and Ghislaine were heavily romantically involved with each other. And she probably, you know, she was probably into weird shit just like him, you know, and they, you know, he probably was like, I'll give you an allowance, you know, if you get the girls, and you know what I like, you know what kind of girls I like. I mean, you know, of course they had other people involved in this as well. Ghislaine is not the only recruiter, but you know, she was the main one. She was the main girl. She, you know, she was the lady of the house. That's...
So baby, when you ready, hit my line. Tell me what you wanna do. I know you see I'm feeling you.
Guys, before we get started with today's video, I just want to quickly thank all of my subscribers. As always, thank you guys so much for subscribing to my channel. If you are not subscribed to my channel, be sure to click that subscribe button. Also, you guys, please like the video, please. Also, I am on patreon.com, and I do have a channel, another channel called Brandy B Review TV. Navigate to the first comment pinned to the top if you want to, if you're interested in signing up for those platforms. Now let's get into this video. So you guys, today we're going to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. If you guys are not familiar with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine, you guys have seriously been living under a rock. Jeffrey Epstein is described as being a financier and offender who engaged in the acts of procuring underage girls in sexual acts with him and some very high profile people. He passed away in prison in 2019. You know, there's been a lot of speculation surrounding his death, whether or not, you know, if he truly, you know, if he committed suicide or if he was actually killed. And this is because of his connection with some very powerful people in connection with the sex trafficking that he did. And some people think that he was killed to be silenced because if he hadn't died in prison, he was threatening to air out dirty laundry of these very high profile people. Just a disclaimer here, you guys, I will be censoring the words that I say because this case is just really disgusting, very sick. The details of who these people is just very disturbing, and I'm gonna have to censor the words that I say because YouTube says so, and that's that. But I wanted to take a deeper look into this case because I find it very interesting. I wanted to take a deeper look into Jeffrey and Ghislaine's relationship because there's just been so much going on about this story. And I wanted to hear from you guys. I wanted to hear what you think. If you know about this case and you've been following this case, I want to hear what you think. Do you think that Jeffrey Epstein was killed, or do you think he truly committed suicide? Who truly was Ghislaine Maxwell? Who was she? Currently, Ghislaine Maxwell is on trial for being an accomplice to Jeffrey Epstein and the sex trafficking that he did. Ghislaine is said to have been the one to groom the girls, find the girls for Jeffrey, so that he could abuse them. So she's on trial right now and her fate is to be determined. So let's start from the very beginning. Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born on January 20th, 1953 in Brooklyn, New York to Pauline and Seymour Epstein. And Jeffrey's childhood was described as being very normal, middle class. His parents were middle class people. And he was, you know, he was a very quiet, nerdy boy, but he was well liked by his friends and everything like that. And he was a very intelligent boy. After Epstein's college years, he would go on to become a math teacher of the prestigious Dalton School. And here's where his predatory behavior started. During his years at Dalton, he would begin to engage himself in inappropriate behavior with students. He would drop in on college parties to mix and mingle with the young girls, and eventually, word would get out, and he would eventually get fired from Dalton for this behavior. Now, let's take a look at Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell was born December 25th, 1961 in Maisons-Laffitte, France, to Elizabeth and Robert Maxwell. And Ghislaine actually grew up very privileged. Her father actually was a billionaire. So her environment was the silver spoon, very privileged life. But her childhood has been described as broken. She was very spoiled, getting away with being rude, with no manners, no guidance. Although her father was a billionaire tycoon, he was also a con artist. So although her father was very wealthy, he got caught up in a pension scandal. He ended up stealing millions from his company's employee pension funds before his death. After Ghislaine's father died, she moved to the United States to New York in 1991 to start a new life. So now that we know who these people are, their backgrounds, let's talk about Ghislaine and Jeffrey together and when they first met. Ghislaine and Jeffrey met in 1991 in New York and developed a romantic relationship. And Ghislaine became known as Jeffrey's main girlfriend. In 1994, Ghislaine Maxwell would help Epstein find the first underage girl, allegedly named Annie Farmer, who was 16 at the time. Ghislaine convinced Annie to go with her to the Epstein Ranch in New Mexico. And in some reports, Annie detailed her experience with Ghislaine, saying that, once Ghislaine got her alone, Ghislaine, gave her a massage and was trying to relax her. She was really preparing her for Jeffrey. Ghislaine and Epstein would work together, luring young girls to the Epstein estate. They would select girls to take shopping and go to the movies and other fun activities, which would seem innocent, right, to a young girl. I mean, when you're that young, you don't think, okay, something could happen. I mean, I guess, you do because maybe your parents have taught you stay away from strangers, things like that, but these girls were so young and, these kinds of things were, it was like kind of fun to do and they would get young girls to recruit other young girls as well. That's very important. So it wasn't always Ghislaine doing this. It was Ghislaine grooming young girls to groom other young girls to recruit these young girls to take to the Epstein estate. However, in 2005, Epstein assaulted a 14-year-old girl at his Palm Beach home in Florida, which the authorities were called. Epstein was arrested in 2006, and after a long investigation, he was charged in 2008 with soliciting prostitution and solicitation of a minor. But he would only serve just 13 months in prison. That's it. Ghislaine and Jeffrey would continue the chaos, of course, but with an upscale clientele. Epstein owned an island called Little St. James, located in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which was also known as Island of Sin or Island of Pedophilia, as allegedly trafficking of minors would take place here. Billionaire guests traveled from all over the world to visit this island. And apparently an island like this was heaven for Epstein and his circus. Because why? Here's why. The U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General made a formal complaint about the island. The complaint said this: Epstein and his associates could avoid detection of their illegal activity from the Virgin Islands and federal law enforcement, and prevent these young women and underage girls from leaving freely and escaping the abuse. Ghislaine and Epstein would host guests on the island such as Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Chris Tucker, Kevin Spacey, Naomi Campbell, and many, many other elites. And apparently this was a very, very exclusively built island. There were beach houses, cottages, enclosed lagoon, various huts with unknown purpose, and you could only get there by Epstein's helicopter, of course. In July of 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested again in New Jersey upon his return from France. He was charged with sex trafficking and sex trafficking conspiracy. This time, new victims or new alleged crimes had come out against Epstein. This would make a solid case for putting him away and ceasing his properties from him for good. However, on August 10, 2019, Jeffrey Edward Epstein was found dead in his jail cell, and the cause of death was ruled a suicide. In July of 2020, Ghislaine Maxwell got arrested at her New Hampshire home and was held without bail. While Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty and has maintained her innocence, there's multiple women coming forward, telling their story, coming forward and saying Ghislaine was the mastermind behind everything. Ghislaine, she was the recruiter, the accomplice. There was no way Jeffrey could have gotten these women without her. So Ghislaine had a pretty big role to play in this whole thing.
Jeffrey claims Maxwell, along with Epstein, recruited, groomed, and abused her. She told us that she thinks Ghlislaine Maxwell should spend the rest of her life behind bars.
You guys, this picture right here, she looks like a freaking creep. Like, ugh, just disgusting. Like this whole thing is just really disgusting, and I'm just so disgusted. Look at her, just ew. So here you have a man, Jeffrey Epstein, who he's literally been, you know, deemed a sex offender his entire life. He's had that stamp of sex offender his entire life. Okay, everybody just ignored it. Everybody around him just ignored that. And he meets Ghislaine Maxwell, right, who she was this little, you know, rich girl who her dad was a con artist, you know, so, you know, that sort of thing has always followed her, being connected to the scheming lifestyle. So them together was a recipe for something like this, you know. At one point, Jeffrey and Ghislaine were heavily romantically involved with each other. And she probably, you know, she was probably into weird shit just like him, you know, and they, you know, he probably was like, I'll give you an allowance, you know, if you get the girls, and you know what I like, you know what kind of girls I like. I mean, you know, of course they had other people involved in this as well. Ghislaine is not the only recruiter, but you know, she was the main one. She was the main girl. She, you know, she was the lady of the house. That's what they say. So, you know, he probably paid her, you know, paid her millions of dollars to recruit and to do this. That was her job. This is just a really, really sick and sad story, you guys. And to know such, you know, people of power were involved with this, it's really disgusting. And it'll be interesting to see what else unfolds about this story altogether. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Jeffrey Epstein was actually killed, or do you think he really did commit suicide? What do you think Ghislaine's involvement in this was? How deep do you think it actually goes? Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Hi guys, don't forget to click that subscribe button. It lets me know you're enjoying the content I'm creating for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.